everyone, this is Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop. So I thought I'd do a bit of a question and answer video. So if you have any questions, ask away. So I have my trusty yellow tarot cards here with keywords. Hi Sue. So this is a deck I designed for my students. How is you in my new shop? Yes, Sue, I am in my new shop. The new shop is not finished yet because I'm still waiting for the windows to be done, but I'm able to work here already. As you can see, I've got everything set up. So finally, I'm in my new shop. It took a while, but I'm here now. Prosit. Almost there, yes, I'm almost there. Yeah, it's basically the windows. Once I have the windows, then I can put my fortune teller sign up. So at the moment, I'm relying on word of mouth and also advertising on Facebook. So once I get the windows done, then people will know what this is. So I am the first fortune teller in the history of Malta, as far as I know, to be in the public, to be out there, to be proud, to have a shop front, and to be claiming that I am a fortune teller. My shop is called the Fortune Teller Shop. So I will be the first in history of Malta, and Malta has a very, very, very long history. In fact, some of the oldest temples in the world have been found in Malta. So it goes way back to the mother goddess, this country. They've got temples here, and they've found archaeological statues, things way back from the Neolithic period of humanity. So it's a very long historical country. Betty, I know you say you need a basic understanding of the cards, but I always doubt myself. I think doubting yourself is just normal, but what will happen is if you keep practicing and you keep, you know, when you start to do more clients or people you don't know, that's when you start to build your abilities. See, when I first started doing tarot readings for the public or for strangers, I was also nervous because I didn't want to be wrong. I didn't want to say the, you know, I didn't want to say the wrong thing. I didn't want to predict something that was wrong. So there's always an element of nervousness and an element of doubt. So that's very normal. But what happened is the more time went on, I started to become more confident, and also whenever I had a card that I wasn't quite comfortable with, I would then go away, and then I would, like after the reading, after the client goes, I would then go into and study the meaning of the cards more. So if I got stumped in a reading, I would then remember what stumped me, and I would work on that. So it's like building muscle. So yeah, that's normal to feel, you know, nervous. It's just, but over time, the more you do, the more, you know, the less nervous you'll get. And maybe if you're starting out, I mean, I don't know what level you are at, but if you are starting out as a fortune teller or a card reader or a tarot card reader, maybe let the client or the person you're reading for maybe say, look, I'm just starting out. I'm not, you know, I'm not an expert. You know, I'm going to ask you questions along the way just so I get, you know, what the cards are trying to say. So most people will be okay with that. Like when I have students and they start working for me in my shop, I often say to the client, this is a student. Often what I used to do in Sydney when I had students working for me is I would do the readings for half price. So what we would do is we would advertise half price tarot readings or Lenormand readings, special offer, half price. So when the client would come into the shop, we'd say, hi, we're doing half price readings today because the person doing the reading is a beginner. Are you happy to go ahead with that, or is that okay, or is that something you'd be interested in? And if the client said, yeah, that's fine, so the client's getting the benefit of half price, and they're practicing, the reader, the student is practicing. And I used to also tell the client, I will be in the room with my student in case they get stuck. Now, sometimes the students would get stuck and I would have to say, let me just step in, or let me, work with the student. And sometimes the student would not get stuck and just deliver an amazing reading, to which I would step back from. I would just let the student, there were many times when I would just let the student continue because they were doing so well, they didn't even need me there. And then if they do 3 readings like that didn't need my assistance, then I would then offer the full price for the client. But other times I had students where they would freeze up, or they'd get stuck, or they'd get nervous, and I would be there, with them. Sometimes I'd sit beside them. It depends what level the student was at. Some students I had were extremely nervous, and I would say to the client, I'm sitting in with the student, so there'll be 3 of us. There'll be the client, the student, and me. I'll tell the client, I'm not going to say anything unless I really need to. Okay, so that's how I used to start them in. So, when I began doing readings, my teacher sat in the room with me. It was a market stall. So she sat in the room while I started. I remember the first reading, she did not interrupt me at all, or she didn't interrupt me at all, or even assist me. She just sort of listened and made sure that I wasn't into any sort of trouble with the reading. But my first few readings she just sat there. She sat in the room and it was fine, and I sort of worked my way through it. I feel like a professional student. Yeah, I think the danger can be sometimes that people end up wanting to study and study and study and study, and then feel scared to actually put their, to actually jump in. But that's how it is. I've had students who do that as well. They want to study tarot, and then they finish that. Then they want to study something else, and then they finish that, and then they want to study something else, but they never actually do readings. So I've had students like that where I would say to them, okay, you've learned enough. Now it's time to practice, because you're just becoming a professional student. And some people, that's what they want. Some people, they don't want to be readers. They don't want to work in the public. But some people, and so they just want to learn. I have one student, her name's Anne. She didn't want to become a professional reader. She just wanted to learn tarot. Then she wanted to learn Lenormand. Then she wanted to learn other things. But she just wanted to do it more out of her own interest. It wasn't something that she wanted to do professionally. She was already a professional makeup artist, so she wasn't looking for a job. She just wanted to do it because she liked it, Sue, I learned to read when I was 16, and with all the arrogance of youth, I was never nervous. Yeah, that's sometimes good. I was never nervous. I learned from a woman with long line of gypsies to her ancestry and her teachers. Yeah, interesting. I've never met a gypsy that actually reads tarot or cards, actually. So I don't know any like real bloodline gypsies that actually do read cards or palm. I've never met anyone in all my years, and also in my shop, I did meet people that say they're gypsies or from Romani background, but they weren't tarot readers, or they weren't card readers or palm readers. So the gypsies that I have met, I've never met any that actually do divination. So I don't know. I don't know about the gypsies. Yeah, so I think, being a tarot student, I think once you learn to read the cards and then the spreads, and then I think it's just stepping into reading for people. And like I said, it's helpful to tell your client that you're a beginner, and that they can give you feedback. Sometimes they might say you're wrong. Oh no, you're wrong. And sometimes you might be right, but they're not understanding. I've had many a time when I've said something to somebody, like, for example, I had a woman not long ago. I said to her, your relationship cards look like you've separated from your partner. And she said no. And I was like, okay, these cards are showing me that she's separated from her partner, and I can't get around that. That's what the cards are showing. So I said to her, so are you with your husband? She said, no, we've divorced. And I said, well, isn't that separation? Doesn't that mean you've separated? She said, oh, I didn't realize you meant that. Okay, so sometimes people, you may actually be right, but either they don't get it, or maybe you're using different terms. Because I said separated rather than divorced, she did not make a connection. So then I basically repeated myself, and then she said, yes, we've divorced. So sometimes there could be a misunderstanding as well. I've had other times as well where I've had people, I've said something to somebody and they've said no, and then they turn around and they actually basically said what I said. Like, for example, one time I said to someone, your cards show that you're moving house, and they said no, they're not moving house. And then later on they've said, oh, we've just moved, we're planning on moving house. And I said, but isn't that what I said 5 minutes ago? And they said, oh, I didn't realize you meant that. So sometimes it can be strange, because you'll say it and they say no, and then later on it turns out that you were absolutely right. So Betty, have you had a student you have to tell you just don't have the talent? Yes. Yes, I have. Okay, so Betty asks, have you had a student you had to tell you just don't have a talent for reading tarot? Yes, I have had that too. Some people just don't know how to put the cards together, no matter how much they try. I had one student in Sydney who studied with me for a good 6 months, and he just couldn't put it together no matter what we tried. We did half price students for clients. I had to step in every time and had to explain to him that the sun does not mean death, and the death card does not mean travel, and the tower does not mean happiness. And he just did not have the brain capacity to remember the meanings of the cards for some strange reason. It was like he was dyslexic, right? And sometimes he would be incredible. Sometimes he would just like do a reading, and it would be really spot on as well. So he was very patchy. He was like a patchwork. Sometimes he'd be really brilliant. Sometimes he would even get psychic visions too. But he just didn't have the talent with the tarot cards. And after a few months, I said to him, I can't have you working in the shop if you are not consistent. So what would typically happen with him is that he would do a brilliant reading for somebody, and sometimes he would even come up with the names. Like he would say, you're going to meet someone and their name is, James or Fred or whatever, and that woman or the client would would meet them or have already just met them. So he often was like uncannily accurate with his psychic visions, but he was not very good with tarot. So what happened was with this particular student, after a few months of tarot just being all over the place and just not able to read it, I tried him out on Lenormand because I thought maybe the tarot is just too much for him. At the Lenormand, he was a bit better because Lenormand was a bit more symbolic, and he didn't have to remember the meanings as much, but still he was patchy. Like he would do, again similar, he would do a reading for someone and it was brilliant and psychic and like clairvoyant. Other than the next client he would have, and he just wouldn't be able to get the basics about them, you know. So eventually what happened with this student is he eventually gave up doing cards altogether, and he ended up doing psychometry. Psychometry is when you read jewelry, when you read someone's jewelry, bracelets or necklace or rings. And again, he was very good at it with some people, but then he was very not good at it with others. So typically would have a client, he would you know, hold their jewelry, hold their watch or their ring or their necklace, and he would, you know, be telling them things about their life and about relationships, and he'd be very accurate. But then I'd get the second client come in and that he just wouldn't be able to pick up anything. So eventually he just stopped he just stopped doing readings professionally, and he only did it, you know, whenever he felt like it, okay? So that was an interesting thing for me too, because that was one of the first students I had who I couldn't mold or form. You know, he would learn something on Monday and totally forget it on Tuesday. So he was not a type of reader that was based on memory. He was just very intuitive though. Okay. Wendy, would your decks with the keywords have helped that student? No, because when I started him on Lenormand cards, I did give him a deck with keywords on it, and he still didn't connect it. It just didn't connect for him. Not always. Sometimes he did connect. It was very strange. Sometimes he would connect very, very strongly with someone. Look, I remember, I'll give you an example. I remember this male client came into the shop, and I said, you know, we're doing half-price readings today because I have a student here and he wants to practice. Is that okay? And the male client said, yeah, that's fine. He was happy because he was getting a half-price reading. So he sat down with my student, and my student said to him, oh, you've got a girlfriend. Okay, he could have guessed that, you know, young male. But he said to this client, your girlfriend, he said, I can hear children singing around your girlfriend. And I was in the room listening, and I was thinking to myself, what is he saying? What is this crazy reading? My student said to the client, I can hear children singing around her. And he said, I can see happiness and lots of children. Now what happened was this girlfriend actually called the client while he was with my student. So she called him on the phone at the same time the reading was going on, and the client said to her, what are you doing, honey? And she said, I'm on a school bus with her class, because she was a school teacher, and they're singing on the bus. So that was spooky. It was like spookily accurate. And then he went on with this client and he started describing other things, other situations, and the client was blown away. Like the client was just like, wow, right? Incredible. It was like very accurate. I was blown away as well, because I'm thinking my student was like having almost like psychic clairvoyant imagery in the moment. Anyway, that client finished up. He thought, you know, my shop was the best shop in the whole world. We were like, you know, magnificent psychics and all that. And then the next client came in and my student just couldn't pick up anything. My student just got a blank, totally blank. So again, he was using psychometry at that point. And I remember the male client that he did that he was very accurate with. I remember he was holding the male client's keys, car keys. But the second client that came in was a woman, and she had jewelry. She had some rings and necklaces. My student was holding, trying to feel something for her, and he just couldn't get anything. So we had to turn that one away. And I said to the client, look, you can come tomorrow. I'll be working. You can, have a reading with me. And she did do that, because I remember she did come back the next day and we talked about it. But my student wasn't able to pick up anything about her. So it's just interesting. And this is why I say to tarot people, yes, it's great to be intuitive. We're all intuitive, more or less. We all have abilities to be intuitive, and especially with tarot and any divination. But if you just rely only on intuition, you may be patchy, and it might be fine if you don't want to be a professional. You just want to be intuitive whenever the mood takes you or the situation. But if you want to work in a commercial way like I do, then you need to be intuitive all the time, every day, and you need to be accurate. You can't be like good with one client and then bad with another, and then good with another and bad with another. Imagine what reputation you'll build. Some people walk away thinking that you're brilliant, and some people walk away thinking that you're a total scammer. So with tarot, for me anyway, it works for me. With tarot and astrology, I do tarot, astrology, palmistry, Lenormand are the main 4 things that I do, and numerology a little bit too. But I can be consistent, But if I was just using my intuition or maybe psychometry, then I wouldn't be able to be a professional. I would just do it occasionally when I felt like it. Okay. Alrighty, well, I'm going to leave this video there because I don't want it to be too long. I'll pop in and out. Now that I've got my new shop, I'll be able to do more videos and more chats and more conversations. Okay? This is Paris Debono of the Fortune Teller Shop.